Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's put this issue to rest once and for all. Over the past few days, reports have circulated that a Canadian court has declared Nigeria's two major political parties, the PDP and the APC, terrorist organizations. Naturally, this has caused a stir, both here at home and among Nigerians abroad. But when you look closely at the actual judgment, the picture is not as sensational as the headline suggests. Let's get some background. The case in question involves one Nigerian, just one Nigerian, who sought asylum in Canada. In his application, he admitted being a member of the PDP from 1999 to 2007, and then of the APC from 2007 to 2017. Now, the Canadian Tribunal and later the federal court found that the PDP, particularly around 2003-2004 elections, engaged in acts of political violence and subversion of democracy. And on that basis alone, his PDP membership was enough to render him inadmissible to Canada. The APC was mentioned, but not substantively ruled on. And in fact, and this is where it gets a little dicey, the applicant's claim to have joined APC in 2007 doesn't seem to line up historically, because APC didn't exist until 2013. So what we have is a case-specific immigration ruling, not a blanket terrorist designation. Yet, the way this has been reported raises serious questions. Now the question is, how should Nigerians interpret this judgment? How are Nigerians interpreting this judgment? What's the impact of this pronouncement, particularly the reportage, on Nigeria's integrity, Nigeria's image, Nigeria's reputation? And lastly, does this have any chance, even remotely, of causing any diplomatic spats between Canada and Nigeria? Well, two gentlemen are with us this morning to have this discussion. Honorable Adebayo Shikomaya is Principal Partner, Valiant and Valor. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, who is Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. He joins us virtually this morning. Good morning, Dr. Ikechukwu, and thanks for joining us today.
Very much.
Yeah. Let me begin with you, Honorable. When you heard this news, as a lawyer, how did this come across to you?
Quite shocking. The judgment is extremely biased. The last time I checked, APC has over 30 million membership, and the PDP also claims to have something close to that. And you know what it takes to describe a group having such large followership as a terrorist group? It's alarming, and it will not stand on any principle of law. The guiding factors are that the action of a group can affect one individual, but not in instances as this. For a political party that is recognized constitutionally, for a party that is guided by electoral laws and has been in government for over 8 years, PDP, at least we all know facts that since we returned to democracy in 1999, it's either been PDP or APC at the national level. Both parties also had over 17 million votes at the last election. How do you describe such a gathering of people as terrorists? How do you use... The fact is also that when you single it out to Mr. Douglas, who is the main person involved in this right now, is he culpable? Why should the fact that I've agreed to join a political party to be involved in bringing a democratic party in my country, why should I be classified as being a terrorist? It doesn't go down well. It defies all principle. And you know that by our own constitutional provision, it's not just about being heard. It's about having fair hearing. Is there any record that shows that Mr. Douglas actually participated in terrorist action?
But by the law that the judge used,
yes,
mere description of the
Yes.
activity
Yes.
is already a classification in that law. And it was that law that the judge used, the basis of upon
What
which
is the basis for referring to APC and PDP as terrorist group? What exactly would be the justifiable reason to classify them as terrorist group?
Interestingly, I'm the one asking the question.
Exactly. So let me. Okay.
Dr. Kechuku, I'll ask you the same question, but perhaps from a different perspective. You've been working with a group of other eminent Nigerians on the reputation of Nigeria. So this labeling, did it ruffle you in any way, manner, shape, or form?
The first point to make is that is speaking from the platform of the Nigerian Reputation Management Group, which is a private, which is not a government platform, is the NIPR working with professionals. The first point you note is that Nigeria is a sovereign state entitled to its own reputation, and therefore that reputation may not be impugned and left unchallenged. We'll come to the legal issues slightly shortly. So I believe before we go into technicalities, I believe, yes, the External Affairs, the Foreign Affairs Ministry has made a release. I believe that the Canadian ambassador should be invited and the matter placed on the table, because this is frivolous communication, notwithstanding the facts behind it. It must be on record, because in international politics, if you do not say, here I am, nobody's going to say, there you are. This is an opportunity for Nigeria to say, yes, we have what one of your judges said. I believe language is important. I believe you know that we are not Canadians, and you're talking about a sitting government among the rest of it. Now, let's go to the issue of the basis for that decision.
Just a second, Dr. Kechu, before we go there. One of the things I discovered in my preparation for this discussion is that it's only the executive arm of government in Canada that can make a statement that would really impugn on the integrity of any other nation, that this was just a ruling from a judicial arm of government and not the prime minister, not the executive arm of government, and that inviting the ambassador or high commissioner of Canada is what is going to make it a diplomatic issue.
My dear brother, my take is that you'd make it a diplomatic issue, even if it's not. The trouble America is making all over the world, determining what your government should do or not do, is it diplomatic? Recall that in 1976, the American Secretary of State was not allowed to land here by the Murtala government. Remember the speech? Africa has come of age. People wake up, express an opinion. When you blow it, quote and unquote, out of proportion, it compels greater attention. It makes people realize that before anybody says anything about you, he will know that you're paying attention. Ayo, if today somebody goes to the village square and says that, look, just a small boy from one family goes to the village square and says, oh, members of your family eat soup without warming it, even when the soup is sour. Somebody can say, oh, but it doesn't matter, it's just a little boy. No, don't let that stick. Take it very seriously, and people will be very careful about that. That's the angle. That's where I'm bringing that into. Now, coming to the matter of the law, the Canadian rules, we must admit that based on the criteria spelled out by the judge, that if an organization uses violence, does this and that, then it can be classified as a terrorist organization. In principle, that is correct. But you see, beyond the matter of being a judge sitting on a seat, there's what you call perception of the implications of the environment. If you say you cannot find another choice of words, I'll disagree with you. But to describe substantive parties, today we say that is it Hamas? Some of those who are dominant in some parts of the Middle East are terrorist organizations and they're running governments. So where is the kinetic arms, the bombing and the confusion arising from PDP and APC, which are classified as terrorist organizations? Where have they all bombed up? Would Nigeria still be in existence? So let us take the matter, because when at NRMG, the Reputation Management Group, the issue for us is that the reputation of the nation is not about whether you like any government or not. It's not the government that is harassed when you go to the airport and they ask you to stand aside because of your green passport. It is us. And therefore, the matter has to be taken with extreme seriousness to compel attention, to compel consideration, to all such that even the matter, yes, you've made the point. It's not the Canadian state that said this, but I ask, is the judge a citizen of Canada? Is he part of an arm of government? Is his statement deemed to have weight in the public domain, in legal circles, and in general global consciousness? The answer is yes. And you know how the West operates. First, they say we are very corrupt. Second, they say our democracy is terrible. Third, this casual statement somewhere, somebody will take it and say, yes, in addition to, they say the Nigerian political parties are terrorist organizations. Remember the global prediction that Nigeria was going to collapse in 25 years, how many years ago? Everybody's talking about, but people don't know the origin. It was the work of a master's degree student who, in his research, it's just like you making a comment that, oh, the River Niger might overflow in the next 5 years and flush out the part of Anambra State. And somebody goes in. That's the way international communication regarding African states and African issues operate. So if they say you have a headache, please, you must go and say that you just got a good health check. Because your headache, when they interpret it, it will turn to cancer and several other diseases. So back to the substantive issues I want to place on the table in this regard. Nigeria's protest should go beyond the letter from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let it be Canada, that will say, oh, you know, you're overreacting, but they'll never forget you overreacted, so they'll be careful with you. The second point is that the legal issues, as explained by the judge, makes a lot of sense in Canadian law. That if you operate by this method, then you can be called a terrorist organization. But the law will then imply, because when you say, okay, if you use violence, question, what scope of violence, among other things. But the other point to note also is that it lies with us. Canada, the judge wouldn't have said that if he didn't notice something. Whether he understood it or not does not matter. And that's why for us at NRMG, the issue is that Nigeria is a petition. The primary casualty is you and I. Therefore, the primary concern will be to get everybody involved. And that's why the media needs to re-educate itself. All of us are in the media. What is it to project as good news, as headline news? Anything bad going on in our country.
Okay.
And that's what is. So we are supplying negative data to the international community. They use this to stigmatize us, and we say it's the work of the devil. It isn't. We took the job from the devil, and the poor guy is jobless on this matter as far as
but you know, Dr. Kechu, that issue, that the one that you just raised now, I'll come back to you on it, because it borders on trust, a lot of it, but we'll come back to that. You know, Honorable, as you said, this issue arose because of one Nigerian. Definitely. One Nigerian. Yes. It also begs the question of perhaps our attitude as a people. How we do what we do where we go. What would inform, for instance, a Nigerian going to seek asylum elsewhere? You know, I mean, as you said, if about 30 million Nigerians are members of the PDP, why would he now single himself out and go elsewhere and put Nigerians? Do you think he considered the possibility of this case going this far in the life of a country?
I'm confident he never thought it would go like this. I'm definitely sure about that. He simply just made full disclosure about his political antecedent, where he's coming from and where he is as of today. But what begs for answer is the fact that what did the judge rely on to classify both parties as terrorist group? Would it not be what Nigerians also put on social media? Would it not be the way we portray our country? You go elsewhere around the world, every time I'm in the US, the CNN I watch is different from CNN worldwide that everybody watches. If you have the opportunity to watch it, you see that all around the time, crime is reported. But that's not what is portrayed to the whole world. But in our own case, Nigerians are so quick to put everything on social media, whether it's verified or unverified. And I can definitely tell you that those sources, those kind of information, whether verified or unverified, are the things that would form this decision that has been taken by this judge that has come to affect you and I. And like Doctor has said, It is not so much about, yes, Nigeria, it affects the reputation or the reputation of Nigeria. But it's about you and I. We are the ones who get harassed when we carry the green passport. We are the ones who are looked down on any time we find ourselves outside of the country.
If you were to make a case, say, okay, we're going to take this call, Nigeria should take this issue to maybe the international courts, at The Hague, or as Dr. Ikechukwu is talking about the diplomatic end. If you had to propose in the remotest way that this case should go the whole hog, what would be your recommendations? Do you think it's gotten to that point?
It has really gotten to that point. We're talking about the reputation of the government. It's not about who is in government right now, whether it's APC or PDP. I just tried to, though unverified, I tried to reel to you the number of people who constitute party membership. Are you telling me now that if both parties claim that they have 30 million, and 30 million people making that kind of application, you refer to them as
but doesn't that also question, the case is clear. Yeah. I think in the build-up to the 2003 election and the build-up to the 2007 elections, the story is all over the place about our attitude as a people. And some of those activities haven't really abated. Just I think about 2015 or so, we still had cases where, the electoral process didn't quite go the way we want. It begs the question of whether or not the political class is conscious of the import of their activities on the image of Nigeria.
Ayo, we're not where we want to be. It's a work in progress. But it is not enough to castigate Nigerians being who we are.
Okay. Dr. Ikechukwu, the issue of trust, we seem to have boxed ourselves into this situation. The government, we're talking about Nigeria. Nigeria is made up of the government and the governed, federal, state, and local governments. But to an extent, and you have spoken about this quite elaborately yourself, Dr. Ikechukwu, people, particularly those who find themselves in positions of authority, don't quite represent the intentions for which the people sent them there as well as they ought to. That's not to justify what the Canadian judge has said, but then it also begs the question whether or not we ourselves are putting ourselves in a good light or the other way around.
Now, the statement about the people not representing the intentions of those who said them is open to argument, and I'll tell you why. If my plan for getting to the National Assembly is to ensure that within the next 4 years, I make about 20 billion, and I spend a lot of money and get myself to the National Assembly, I'm pursuing my intentions. In order to get there, you had within my constituency a very competent gentleman or a lady, honest, well-known, trusted, dependable in every way, but everybody knows me to be a rather shady character. Nobody can explain the source of my income, etc. We present ourselves for election, and the other person tells you what he or she is going to do, which you know he's been doing even without being in government. He'll do more of it. But I come around and I give each of you 10,000 on the day of the election, and you accept the 10,000 and vote me in. My dear brother Ayo, you have actually voted in the person who will deliver what you want, which is irresponsibility as leadership. Once I get in, I have no need to get back to you because I already paid you upfront at the rate of 2,500 naira per annum. So when you say, oh, the people, their expectations, and I've asked this a lot of times even on air, if you as moderator now you're made a minister, Tinubu announces you as a minister tomorrow morning, what's the likely attitude of your cousins, your friends, your colleagues, your schoolmates? You've been a minister for 2 months and somebody comes and says, an old friend, Ayo, boy, I'm looking for how to sort out some things. I need some 15 million naira to put into my business. And you quickly say, okay, come back in 2 hours, I'll give them the money. He won't ask you where it came from. That is the quality of the human capital. So let's stop pretending that there are angels who are nice and waiting, and then somehow devils come to rule over them. No, we know their antecedents, they have their profile. We consciously and deliberately rig on their behalf for a fee. Our schools are shut down, and we say these people are wicked, whereas we're the ones who elected people who don't see the value of education. So I will not at all in any way subscribe to the presumed innocence of the masses. In what way are they innocent? So let's not begin to kid ourselves. There were times in this country when leaders created GRAs, MI Opara in the southeast, even our military Hassan Katsina in Kano, and did not any of them get any plot in those places? No. In the case of Katsina, when somebody applied on his behalf, the palm sank, shredded the thing. He said, how come? And went to speak to the governor. We're here for the people. Do you have that? And yet there are the people who are getting chieftaincy titles. There are the people who stay in the front row in the church. There are the people, when they come late to church, they must come late anyway. As they are walking in, they are looking around and shaking hands and chatting with their friends in the presence of what's supposed to be the presence of God. And by the way, they also are carrying guns to protect them from angels. That's the country in which we are. I am my brother, and my colleague is speaking over there. Somebody will come, oh, Professor, okay, you know, we heard you saying this the other day, and that, and that, and that. You know, the thing is for the people to rise. I say, rise from where? You're poor and hungry. You can't transport yourself to work, right? What will the rising translate to? Again, it just changed the leadership. When Buhari was sworn in, everybody was afraid that something new had happened. And to everyone's surprise, we had electricity non-stop for 2 weeks. People became alarmed. Light has not been going off. Is something wrong with the country? After 2 weeks, they noted the reflexes and went back to where we are. So to come around to the substantive issue you raised, the Nigerian state as it exists today is a historical necessity and the consequence of the level of consciousness of the people. So when people criticize specific governments, oh, can you imagine what a Jonathan government did? Look at Tinubu government, it is doing this or not doing that. None of them fell from the moon. That's why we must focus on national interest, not specific governments. You fight to people who make enemies, become mortal enemies, because they're either supporting one government or opposing it. Meanwhile, the thing doesn't concern them in terms of their personal relationships.
Okay.
So, Canada matter. Back to the Canada matter. The issue is out in the international domain, not just in the public domain. It's a perception that less than 2% will take time to analyze the origin. Just like when I mentioned the thing about, oh, Nigeria will collapse in 25 years. Everybody thinks it's a substantive submission from one of the greatest investigative and security agencies in the world. No, it was a research by a young man. So we have a duty to take this head on. If NRMG is fixing 15th October every year as Nigeria's Reputation Day, it's not in order to come and make speeches. It's not in order, and that's a mistake we made about national reputation. If you say there's something wrong with the country, they say, oh, in the past, you know, if you kept firewood outside or your food, nobody will take it. When you come back home, we need to remind ourselves that today is not that time. And what is it that needs to be done to return to that kind of behavior? That's the issue. The presumptive, you know, if you like, begging the question, oh, we are, you forget you're using past tense, present tense. What kind of people are you voting for? How are you behaving in the office? Least those in government. You're complaining, oh, Tinubu, this federal government is doing this and that. So I ask you, do you have a ward chairman? Yes. Do you have a council chairman? Yes. Do you have a local government chairman who gets no less than 100 to 250 million naira every month? Yes. Do you have a governor? Now leave the governor. Come back to your local government chairman. Has anybody ever asked what that does, how that happens? And you expect that democracy will grow when our thinking, once we think of government, we think of federal. Everybody needs to wake up.
Absolutely.
People have room to play in their local environment.
Yeah.
And then, most critically, you have what you call national interest reporting in media management. That has to come back. That is why my colleague there will say that go to the US, you won't even know the CNN will watch here exists. Go to the US, you're not going to get shortwave radio. It's only frequency modulation. Because shortwave radio will give you access to a wider network and you know what's going on. This is an insular society, but they'll come here and tell you all sorts of things. You know, you and I cannot go now and dump 3 trillion on any of the parties. No. But the American law allows dark money. Legally, you're not allowed to question how much they put into a party or for what interest. Legally. And we're here trying to be angels, supervised by semi-demons, and hoping to be accorded medals for good behavior.
You know, you've raised
one last line on this. You know, we are said to be one of the most corrupt in the country, in the world, number whatever. Where do you take stolen money to and it's safe? Swiss banks. Go and check the rating of that country on Transparency International Index for Corruption. We need to wake up, and I go back to that statement. The American Secretary of State was not allowed to land. Don't come here to tell us what to do after a change of government in our country. Africa has come of age. We need to say we've come of age. International politics, if you don't say here I am, I tell you this, nobody's going to turn around and say there you are. But in this case, I know where you are. You're in the studio, don't worry.
Well, we'll come back to that one, Dr. Ikechukwu. Well, Honorable, he raised some issues about people questioning, and I actually like the way this is going, that this whole tag is coming perhaps because the people themselves are not probing the issues, and that's what Dr. Ikechukwu is saying. So if we're talking about national reputation, it comes down to the people. But he raised an issue about, you know, the people questioning how the local government chairman spends X amount of money, 250 million naira, he says, on the average, that goes to, you know, various local government administrations, depending on which state they are. Can you tell us how do you think people can do that today? Hold particularly the local government's administrations in their localities to account? Because I think that's where this whole reputation thing starts from.
Agreeably, until we become each other's watchdogs, we're not going anywhere in this country. The fact is that you can't put it at the doorstep of the federal government. How do we get to achieve this? We need to ask our local representatives questions. Our councillors will live within. How?
How do we do that?
Okay, so we have
policemen with guns around them all the time.
No, the local councillors, which represent each ward, live amongst us. If it's difficult to see the governor, it shouldn't be difficult to see your local councillor, your councillor of your area. It should not be difficult for you to walk to your local government. These are within the vicinity of everyone. The question is, everybody leaves this responsibility to the other. Nobody is conscious about it. When last did I write to my local government chairman? When last did I call his attention to a pothole on the roads where I work?
Do you even know who that local government chairman is?
Yes, I do. I know who the local government chairman is.
I'm talking about the average Nigerian. Does he care?
Yes,
a councillor, does he care?
Yeah, an average Nigerian does not care. You understand? The other day they had Lagos State election, local government elections.
Yeah.
And I drove around the estate where I live. Everywhere was empty. You call that voters' appetite. But these are people who are coming to represent you. Whether you think your vote counts or it doesn't count, we have the civic responsibility and the primary responsibility to make sure that we vote. And now these people have been elected. They are in office. Should we still just fold our hands and say, oh, it's just 3 years, oh, it's just 4 years? Let us also be seen as good citizens, to be asking questions, to be pruning, and be making recommendations as expected. Okay. Write your first letter, do a visit, be seen to have done your own part, and let's see if something happens or not.
Now, I'll ask Dr. Ikechukwu this, but I want you to have a first go at it. How do you see us as a people championing Nigeria's reputation and not just leaving it to the reputation management group?
Well, it has to be a conscious thing that we all have to be ready about. We need to change our mindset about it. We need to be very patriotic about this country. We need to be fair on this country. Like I said earlier, we're not where we ought to be. But we need to give the system an opportunity to work. And we also need to tell ourselves, we need to constantly do a check on ourselves to ask ourselves, in the little things that are committed to me, whether in my workplace, when I drive, in my neighborhood, am I also doing what is expected that will portray Nigerians and myself as being good people? Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Ikechukwu, I'll ask you that same question as well for Nigerians at home and abroad. What do you propose? Is there an NRMG plan, or is it something you think? How do we conscientize ourselves about Nigeria's reputation?
There is an NRMG plan and program detailed to drill down, but that will be seen in the execution. What's to pay attention to respect of the question you asked, is simple. You're talking about reputation. You're talking about mindset. You're talking about affecting the people. The first step is for everyone to start where he is. Begin where you are. What is it I can do differently? Because when you talk about reputation of a country, among other things, it's easy to get deluded, and I'll cite 2 examples. When Nigeria is playing football, everybody is excited, we are supporting our team, and you find some political leaders saying, this is genuine patriotism. You know, if only we can retain that patriotism and carry it into every aspect of our national life, and then there will be, that solidarity will remain there. My response always, and which will still be the same today, is that life is not a game of football. In the case of football, there are 2 teams that are chasing a round object and kicking it viciously. One of them is standing between 2 poles, risking his life just to catch the object. That in itself is sufficiently exciting. Now, that's not. After that football, your attention is taken away from that source of tension and concern, and you remember you've not eaten. That's 1. 2, when we also speak of patriotism, some people think of what happens during National Day celebration. Some people will dress in green, come and sing, talk about inter-tribal, inter-ethnic marriages. That cannot give you a new Nigeria. What can give you the kind of nation you're talking about is a sense of equity, clear indication by the leaders that they know where they are. Ask yourself, how many governors travel by road? Ask yourself how many interstate roads are good enough for that. And I'm talking, you see, once you talk, they say, oh yes, it is terrible. Who are you attacking? Go back to the 16 years of PDP. The road from Kaduna to Abuja was bad throughout those years. No, that road was not completely good at any point at all. The same for the road from Port Harcourt to Enugu to Onitsha, all of them federal roads. So these are issues to consider that we also must ask ourselves to what extent we are connected with the people. We are creating more and more disconnect. I'll go, I have my policemen, nobody can visit me, but coming around to the critical issue, the schools are involved, parents are involved. It's about return to simple etiquette. What is wrong is wrong. If anybody is able to understand that and progressively drill it down, it will make a lot of difference. The mistake there is that we assume that once we come and talk to the public and say, you see, you have to be patriotic, you have to support national interest, this is our country. The man is wondering why you called him. After there's no refreshment, he says, you see, this will just wasted my time. But if he's lucky, the occasion is a rally and he gets a t-shirt, he says, okay, I'll use this t-shirt. Another party comes, he goes to get another t-shirt. He's not a member of any political party. Political parties must begin membership drive by grassroots mobilization. Every party should aim to have at least one gathering in the local government every quarter. That's how they will get together. That's how they know they have an ideology. That's how the chairman will know and relate to the people, among other things.
Yeah, that raises a lot of other questions on its own. I'm just wondering, thankfully this issue is about political parties, not about some representative of the state or not about some ethnic group. Thankfully, that is it. Hopefully, this will give the political parties themselves some awakening that not just Nigerians are watching, the whole world is watching how we play our politics. If we are interested in what's happening in ZANU-PF and we are interested in what's happening in the political parties in Iran, most certainly the world is interested in what's happening in our political parties as well. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Oke Ikechukwu is Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. We appreciate your time and perspectives, as well as Honorable Adebayo Oshikomaya, who is Principal Partner, Valiant Valor. Thank you. Valiant and Valor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, that is an achievement, and that's what we're talking about next. An achievement, but junior achievements. We'll talk more about that when we return. Thank you, sir.